I returned to summer camp a few weeks ago. I'm 34 now, and I thought it would help me relax. The corporate world was stressful, and I wanted to relive the good memories of my childhood. When I got there, everything looked just as I remembered it. The cabins were rustic, the lake shimmered, and the scent of pine filled the air. Sunshine, trees, and quiet nights with only the crickets chirping. But then, on my first night, I heard laughter. It echoed across the lake. At first, I thought it was kids playing in the empty cabin across the water. A chill ran through me, but I brushed it off and turned off the lights, hoping to sleep. I did fall asleep eventually, but I woke up in the dark. The laughter was still there. It felt strange. Maybe I should have gone to check it out, but I thought that was silly. It was probably just my imagination. As the days went by, things got weirder. I found old photographs in a dusty corner of my cabin. They were stuck between the floorboards. The kids in the pictures looked so happy, but their smiles felt forced. I wondered what had happened to them. Then there were the campers I met. During campfire stories, they talked about things that didn't match what I'd experienced. I wanted to ask them about it, but they brushed me off. I took a deep breath and tried to ignore the feeling in my gut, but it was hard. One night, I went for a walk by the lake. That's when I saw it. A shadowy figure stood at the water's edge. My heart raced. I squinted into the darkness, unsure if I was just tired. I almost called out, but my voice caught in my throat. The figure didn't move. It just stayed there, staring at something in the water. I felt cold. It was like something was watching me. My instincts screamed to run, but I couldn't move. After what felt like forever, the figure vanished into the night. Now that laughter echoed in my mind constantly. I tried to convince myself it was just kids playing, or maybe I was imagining things, but the feeling wouldn't go away. I began to think it wasn't just memories haunting me. Maybe something else was here. I wanted answers, but I also felt scared. As I write this, I keep asking myself if I should leave. I realized I wasn't alone. I could feel it deep in my bones. I was back in a place that held my childhood, but now something felt off. Maybe some things should stay buried. The laughter still played in my ears, and I wondered what it was trying to tell me. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there, waiting, hoping for some clarity. Chapter 2. The next morning, the laughter was gone. I felt relieved, but also uneasy. Silence had replaced that haunting sound, and it left me feeling hollow. I decided to take a walk around the camp, hoping to shake off the feeling of dread that clung to me.
As I strolled down the familiar paths, I noticed how many of the cabins were unchanged. However, a few had boarded windows and sagging roofs. I frowned, wondering how long they had been abandoned. I spotted a group of campers playing by the lake. They laughed and splashed each other, their joy starkly contrasting with my own murky emotions. I wanted to join in, but felt too disconnected. I continued my walk, passing the campfire area, where I had heard ghost stories just days before. It was then that I noticed something glimmering beneath the fire pit. Curiosity got the better of me, and I walked over. Kneeling down, I brushed away the ashes and dirt. My heart started racing when I pulled out an old, tarnished charm bracelet. I recognized it instantly. It had belonged to Lily, a friend from camp. I remember her wearing it during our last summer together. She had gone missing shortly after camp ended that year. I hadn't thought about her in years, yet here was the proof that my memories were still tied to this place. I took the bracelet in my hand, feeling its cold metal against my skin. Questions bubbled to the surface. How did it end up here? Was it a coincidence, or was something more sinister at play? My head spun with possibilities, and the laughter from the night before echoed in my mind. Feeling a rush of adrenaline, I decided I had to ask the campers about it. I approached them, hoping one of them might know something. They were friendly enough, but when I brought up Lily, their expressions changed. They exchanged nervous glances, as if I had spoken a forbidden name. "Why do you want to know about her?" one boy finally asked, his voice shaky. "Because I found her bracelet," I said, holding it up for them to see. The reaction was immediate. They backed away slightly, their eyes wide with fear. "You shouldn't be here," one girl murmured, her voice a whisper. She She isn't the only one. My chest tightened. What do you mean? But before they could respond, I heard a rustling in the bushes nearby. Initially, I dismissed it as another camper or an animal, but the way they froze made me take a second look. Something was lurking in the shadows. Then, just as quickly, the noise stopped. The campers turned and ran back toward their cabin, leaving me standing there, breathless and confused. Had they seen something? I glanced around, half expecting to spot the shadowy figure again. I needed to make sense of this. I turned to head back to my cabin, but just as I did, a chill ran down my spine. I felt that presence again, as if someone was watching me from behind. I glanced over my shoulder. Nothing. But as I walked back, I heard a new sound, a low whisper, almost like a call. It beckoned me, pulling me toward the woods. My feet moved before I could think. I turned away from my cabin and followed the whisper, afraid of what I would find. My heart pounded, and the air grew thick around me. The shadows felt alive.
I had to know what was waiting for me. Chapter 3. The whisper became louder, a soft, insistent beckoning that tugged at my thoughts. I followed it deeper into the trees, the air cooling as I moved away from the camp. The surrounding sounds of laughter faded, replaced by an eerie stillness. Something about the woods felt off, as if they were holding their breath. I walked further, my feet crunching on dry leaves. My heart raced, but I couldn't turn back. I needed answers. The bracelet felt heavy in my pocket, a constant reminder of Lily and the unsettling mystery surrounding her disappearance. Suddenly, the whisper changed. It transformed into a faint cry, almost like a child's voice crying for help. I hesitated, my stomach churning. Was someone really out here? I pushed the thought aside and pressed on, driven by a mix of fear and urgency. Then, I saw a flash of white ahead, darting between the trees. My pulse quickened. "Hello?" I called out. "Is anyone there?" There was no answer, but the white shape flickered again, just out of reach. I followed it, desperate to uncover the source. As I twisted through the branches, I stumbled upon a small clearing. The sunlight streamed down, illuminating a weathered wooden sign half buried in the ground. It read, "Lily's Grove." My breath caught in my throat. This was a place I had never heard of, yet it felt familiar, like a fragment of a forgotten dream. The air was thick with tension. I sensed something lurking, an energy that pricked the back of my neck. Just then, I caught sight of something else, an old, rusted swing set, its chains creaking slightly in the wind. I stepped closer, drawn by an invisible force. That's when I saw it, a tattered scarf draped over one of the swings. Recognition hit hard. It belonged to Lily. My mind raced. What was it doing here? The scattered memories of our summers together rushed back, but they felt clouded, mixed with the fear of what she might have experienced. A chilling breeze swept through, and I felt like I was no longer alone. I turned, almost expecting to find someone watching, but it was just shadows dancing in the trees. Yet the feeling of being watched intensified, a weight pressing down on me. I glanced at the bracelet again. It seemed to pulse with energy, as if it were connected to this place. My instincts nagged at me to run, but the urge to understand burned stronger. I reached out to touch the swing, when a sudden movement caught my eye. A figure stood at the edge of the clearing, partly hidden by the trees. My breath stopped as I tried to make out their features. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice trembling. But before I could demand an answer, the figure turned and ran deeper into the woods, disappearing in the underbrush. Instinctively, I followed. I had to know who it was and what they knew about Lily, even if it meant confronting whatever darkness lingered in the woods. My heart hammered in my chest, fear and determination propelling me forward. But just as I was about to catch up, everything went dark. The forest around me seemed to close in, the whispers returning, swirling like a storm.
I realized I had ventured too far, and now darkness enveloped me. I could feel it creeping, something sinister lurking just beyond my vision. I had to escape, but this time I didn't know if I could find my way back. Chapter 4. I blinked hard, trying to adjust to the darkness. Panic surged as I stumbled forward, my hands outstretched to feel for anything solid. There was no path, no comforting trees, just a thick, suffocating blackness wrapping around me. I could hardly breathe. Then the whispers returned, louder and more urgent. I shivered as icy fingers of dread grasped my spine. "Lily?" I called, hoping against hope that I could pierce the shadows with her name. Suddenly, the darkness flickered, and images flashed in my mind. Lily's laughter, her bright smile, our secret hideouts. I felt lost in those memories, as if they were pulling me deeper into the abyss. Just when I thought I might drown in despair, I spotted a glimmer of light ahead. My feet instinctively moved toward it. As I got closer, I realized it wasn't just a light. It looked like a fire, crackling warmly against the cold. There was a distinct feeling about it, something inviting yet unsettling. I could hear voices murmuring, but they sounded distant, warped. I stepped forward cautiously, trying to distinguish shadows moving around the fire. To my shock, it was a group of campers, people I recognized. They were laughing and sharing stories, their faces illuminated by the flames. But why hadn't I heard them before? The moment I stepped into the clearing, they stopped. A stillness fell over the group, and I felt their eyes bore into me. "What's going on?" I asked, but the words sounded hollow, swallowed by the air. One of the boys, Jake, stepped forward. His expression was unreadable. "You shouldn't be here," he said, barely above a whisper. The others shifted uncomfortably, their smiles fading. "It's not safe. You should leave." Before I could respond, the ground trembled beneath us. The flames flickered wildly, casting long, exaggerated shadows that twisted around like ghosts. Someone in the group, a girl named Mia, screamed, and I turned to look. Behind us, the darkness was shifting, revealing a figure emerging from the trees. It was the same figure I had seen earlier, that fleeting shadow that had led me into the woods. My heart raced as I felt the bracelet in my pocket heating up, almost burning my skin. Whatever was approaching, it felt drawn to me. "Run," I shouted, panicking. The campers hesitated, exchanging fearful glances, but I didn't care. I could feel the danger rising, pressing down like a weight on my chest. Without waiting for anyone to move, I turned and dashed back the way I came. Branches clawed in my clothes, and the whispers grew louder. "Lily, Lily," they echoed through my mind, haunting me. I stumbled, nearly tripping in the dark, the firelight fading behind me. I pressed on, desperate for escape. My surroundings blurred, but the figure lingered in my thoughts, a puzzle I couldn't piece together. Then I heard it, a voice cutting through the chaos, clear and sharp. "You're not supposed to be here. You need to find her." It wasn't one of the campers. It was someone else, someone older. The urgency in the voice struck me, and I faltered, spinning around. "Who are you?" I yelled into the night, my heart pounding. The trees stood silent, but I could still sense something watching me, waiting for me to make a mistake. The figure drew closer, and I could see the outline of an old woman, her face shadowed, but her eyes sparkling with intensity. I wanted to flee, to run, but at that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within me. Maybe she had answers. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, the ground shifted again beneath my feet, and I stumbled forward. I was falling into the darkness once more, the voice fading as I grasped for anything to hold on to. I hit the ground hard, pain shooting through my body, but I couldn't stop now. I had to uncover the truth. No matter what was chasing me, I would find Lily. Chapter 5. I gasped for breath as I landed hard on the cold, damp ground. My heart pounded in my chest, and I struggled to regain my bearings. The air felt heavy, and I could hear that relentless whisper again. Lily. It was taunting me, drawing me back into the dark recesses of my mind. When I finally took a moment to collect myself, I noticed something unusual. I was no longer in the woods. Instead, I found myself in what appeared to be an abandoned cabin.
The walls were lined with grimy, cracked wood, and the only light came from a few flickering candles, casting eerie shadows that danced across the floor. I didn't recognize this place, but it felt disturbingly familiar. I stood up slowly, scanning the room. Old pictures hung crookedly on the walls, their subjects obscured by dust. I made my way cautiously towards the nearest photo. As I pulled it from its frame, I gasped. It was a picture of Lily and me, taken during our last summer at camp. We were grinning at the camera, arms wrapped around each other, overwhelmed by joy. But something was off. It was as if the faces in the image were slowly fading, like memories being erased. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from outside, making me jump. I rushed to the window and peered out. The forest loomed outside, and I could see movement among the trees, a flicker of a shadow that sent chills down my spine. I could barely make it out, but it looked like the same figure I had encountered before. It was moving closer, seemingly aware of my presence. I stumbled back, my mind racing. What does this mean? Then I noticed something on the floor next to me. It was a small, ornate box. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. A strange feeling coursed through me, a connection I couldn't explain.
When I opened it, my breath caught in my throat. Inside lay a bracelet, identical to the one I had found earlier. The moment I touched it, a rush of visions flooded my mind. I saw Lily, but she looked different, not the vibrant girl I remembered. There was fear in her eyes, shadows lurking around her. I heard her voice, muffled and distant. "You have to help me, please. Find the truth." As the images faded, reality crashed back in. The figure was drawing nearer, and I had to act. My heart raced. I couldn't let them take Lily from me, not when I was so close to finding her. I needed answers, and this cabin felt like the key. Just as I turned to search the rest of the room, the door creaked open. Panic surged anew as I realized someone, or something, was standing in the doorway. The last remnants of light from the candles flickered out, and darkness rushed in like a wave. I could barely make out the shape standing there, a silhouette against the waning glow. "Lily?" I whispered, fear gripping my throat. But the figure didn't respond. Instead, they took a step forward, and everything went black once again. That's when I understood. I was in the eye of a storm, and I could either sink or fight my way through. I clenched the bracelet in my palm, preparing for what was to come. There was no turning back now.
The bitterness of regret washed over me as I thought about the day we shared at camp. I couldn't let those memories fade. Lily deserved better. "Help me!" That frantic plea echoed in my mind. I had to do something. I turned back to the cramped room, my thoughts racing. Find the truth. But what was the truth? What did the cabin hold that I was missing? My eyes fell on the ornate box again. I approached it cautiously, determined to extract every clue it might hold. I opened it, expecting the bracelet, but it was empty. Confusion twisted in my gut. Where had it gone? Then I noticed something glinting on the floor, catching my eye. I bent down and gasped. It was a small, folded note. My fingers unfurled the paper, and my breath caught at what I read. "Meet me where the shadows blend." The mysterious message chilled me to the bone. I could feel urgency clawing at me. I had to figure out what it meant. Suddenly, I heard a low growl from the shadows, a noise that sent a jolt of fear through me. I was not alone in this cabin. Something was lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike. Then, the fog outside began to seep into the cabin, swirling in thick tendrils like fingers reaching for me. I realized I had to move. Now. As I bolted for the door, the room plunged into darkness again, but I wouldn't let fear stop me. I needed to find Lily, no matter the cost. Outside was calling, and I was determined to answer. Chapter 7. I pushed the door open and rushed into the thick fog. It pressed against me like a heavy blanket, blurring my surroundings. I squinted,
but I could barely see a few feet ahead. The air was cold and damp, sending shivers down my spine. "Lily!" I called out, my voice swallowed by the mist. There was no response, just the eerie silence of the forest wrapping around me. My heart thudded hard in my chest as I stepped deeper into the fog. I tried to remember the note, where the shadows blend. What did that even mean? I felt lost, drifting in a sea of uncertainty. The trees loomed like dark sentinels, their branches clawing at the sky, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were watching me. Suddenly, a rustling sound broke the silence. My head snapped in the direction of the noise. "Is anyone there?" I demanded, my voice braver than I felt. But only a low wind answered me, whispering secrets I couldn't understand. I took a deep breath and continued forward, my sneakers crunching against the underbrush. Each step added to my mounting fear. The fog thickened, and a foreboding chill wrapped around me like a creeping vine. I tried to push the panic down. I needed to keep moving. I had to find Lily. Then I saw it, a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye. I turned sharply, but nothing was there, just the tree standing still, waiting. I took another cautious step, determined to confront whatever was hiding within the shadows. That's when I saw it again, a shadow flitting between the trees, just out of reach.
My heart raced. "Lily?" I called, desperation lacing my voice. I felt the shadows wrap tighter around me, teasing me with the knowledge that someone was close. Then I remembered the bracelet. I fumbled in my pocket, hoping for a connection, some guidance. In the weight of uncertainty, the metal felt reassuring against my fingers. I thought about the promise I had made on that summer day. I will always find you. Before I could draw strength from that memory, the rustling grew louder. I spun around. A figure emerged from the mist, barely discernible, a silhouette against the white fog. My heart slammed against my ribs. Was it Lily? "Lily!" I shouted again, taking a step towards the figure, but it vanished into the haze, melting away as if it had never existed. I felt the ground shift beneath me. The spell of fear tightened. Then I heard the growl again, closer this time. I was not alone out here. My instincts kicked in, overriding my confusion. I had to run. I turned back toward the cabin, but the fog twisted around me, hiding paths I thought were clear. I stumbled, my breath quickening. The growl echoed again, low and guttural, sending a fresh wave of fear through me. There was something hunting me. I took off in the opposite direction, adrenaline sparking through my veins. As I sprinted through the fog, thoughts raced. The shadows weren't nearly blending. They were hiding something dangerous. Then I felt it, a surge of rage and power that sent a jolt through the air. My pulse quickened as I realized I was running into something far darker than I had ever imagined. That's when I tripped, falling hard against the damp earth. I looked up and froze. The fog parted just enough to reveal a figure standing over me, eyes glinting with an otherworldly light, waiting for me to make my next move. Chapter 8. I lay on the ground, heart racing, staring at the figure above me. Its eyes, like shards of ice, seemed to pierce through the fog and right into my soul. It stood motionless, an unsettling calm in the chaos around us. Everything felt wrong, too quiet, as if the forest held its breath, waiting. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out, my voice trembling. The figure didn't speak. It just tilted its head slightly, as if assessing me. Panic clawed at my insides. I pushed myself up with shaky hands, my instincts screaming for me to get away. Suddenly, a rush of wind blew through the trees, sending a chill through my bones. The figure took a step closer, and I scrambled back, my hands slipping in the damp earth. "Stay away!" I yelled, but the words sounded weak in the stillness. I thought of Lily. I had to find her. In a flash, the figure moved, darting toward the tree line. I hesitated, then followed, my mind racing. Maybe it was leading me to her. Maybe it knew where she was. But as I ran, I noticed something strange. The ground felt different underfoot, like the ground was breathing.
It shifted with each step I took, changing direction, almost alive. Just as I started to think I was making progress, I heard it again, a low growl resonating from somewhere deeper in the fog. Terror surged through me, grounding me in reality. This wasn't just a search for Lily anymore. It was about survival. I pictured the cabin, the safety it promised, and made a snap decision. I turned on my heels, sprinting back the way I came, hoping the figure wasn't following me. The fog wrapped around me, thick and disorienting. I could hardly see, and my lungs burned with the effort. But I had to reach that cabin. I had to get back to safety. Then I stopped. Another sound caught my attention. A faint whimper. My heart dropped. It was coming from nearby, hidden in the fog. I couldn't ignore it. It could be Lily. I took a step toward the sound, calling out, "Lily, are you there?" But the whimper faded quickly, swallowed by the cold, damp air. In the distance, I saw something, an outline. I squinted, heart racing, hoping it was her. As I approached, reality crashed down. It was a figure with the same glowing eyes, the same silhouette. My stomach twisted in fear. It wasn't just a trick of the fog. It was another one. Just as the realization dawned on me, the growl roared again, closer this time, reverberating through the ground. I felt it deep in my chest. Panic exploded inside me, drowning every rational thought. I turned to run, but the shadows danced around me, shifting and merging. I was trapped. Then, before I could take a breath, a blinding light pierced the fog, illuminating the area with an otherworldly glow. All at once, the figure stopped and turned, exposing its true form, with skin like ice and features that seemed to be carved from shadow. But before I could process what I was seeing, the growl morphed into something more, an ear-splitting roar that echoed through the night. That's when everything went dark.
Just silence. I took a few cautious steps, my ears straining for any sound more than the rustle of leaves. Then I heard it, a soft, muffled sound, a voice. I turned toward it, hope surging through me. It was faint, barely audible, but definitely Lily's. "Lily!" I shouted, moving in the voice's direction. The underbrush tugged in my clothes, branches snagging at my arms, but I pressed on. "Lily, where are you?" The voice responded again, closer this time. I brushed aside a thick mass of branches and pushed through. The sound grew louder, transforming into pleading cries. My heart sank as I hurried toward it. When I broke through the thicket, I stopped short. I was standing in a small clearing, and there, in the center, was a scene that nearly made my stomach turn. A dark figure loomed above Lily, who was bound to a tree. My mind went blank. "Leave her alone!" I shouted, my voice cracking with raw fear. The figure turned slowly, its chilling eyes locked onto mine. The growl returned, deep and rumbling, shaking the ground beneath us. I felt the urge to run again, but I couldn't abandon her. I took a step forward. My foot snapped a twig, loud against the silence. The figure's gaze sharpened, and in a blink, it lunged towards me. My body reacted before my mind could think. I grabbed a fallen branch and swung it wildly, connecting with something solid. The creature recoiled, growling in fury. "Lily!" I shouted again, rushing towards her as the figure staggered back. She looked pale and terrified, but I knew she was listening. "I'm going to get you out of here." I fumbled with the knots holding her wrists, my heart pounding in rhythm with the growls. Just as I managed to loosen one of them, the creature snarled, regaining its balance. That's when I saw it, a glimmer of movement behind me. I panned my head just in time to see another figure emerging from the trees, its glowing eyes fixed on me. I froze, every instinct screaming that we were not alone. In that moment, hope turned to despair. My mind raced with escape plans, but nothing felt viable. We were surrounded. Then I heard screaming, familiar and chilling. It wasn't just Lily. That scream ignited a primal fear within me, shattering any thought of retreat. I had to act. I had to fight. My next move could mean life or death.
I scrambled to free Lily, the world around me closing in like a tightening noose. "Just hold on," I urged her, frantically working at the knots binding her wrists. I could feel the dark presence behind me, its hunger palpable. The growls vibrated in the air like a heavy storm. "Please hurry," Lily whimpered, her eyes wide with fear as I pulled at the rope. I finally managed to loosen one knot, and she gasped as I yanked it free. But just as I reached for the second knot, a force collided with me, knocking me off balance. I stumbled back, scrambling to stand. The creature lunged, its eyes blazing with a primal hunger, teeth bared in a snarl. Panic erupted within me.
I couldn't let it take us. I glanced around, searching for anything to fight back with, but all I could see was darkened trees and shadows closing in. The growl came again, closer, deeper. I felt the very ground tremble beneath my feet as the second figure advanced. I swallowed hard, fear gnawing at my insides. But I couldn't just stand there. My heart raced as I picked up a sharp stick, but it felt flimsy against the terror in front of me. "Get away from her," I shouted, brandishing the stick like a sword. It was all I had, and I hoped it was enough. The creature hesitated, its glowing eyes narrowing. That moment of uncertainty ignited a spark of courage within me, and I charged forward, swinging the stick wildly. To my surprise, it connected with the creature's jaw, sending it reeling back. That moment gave me just enough time to pull Lily from her bindings. "Run!" I screamed at her, grabbing her hand and dragging her away. As we sprinted into the trees, I felt panic envelop us. The fog thickened again, clinging to our lungs like smoke. I could hear the creature's enraged growls behind us, echoing through the trees, but we pressed on, absorbing the sharp branches tugging at our clothes. "Which way?" Lily gasped beside me, her breaths shallow. I didn't know. I could only focus on the instinct to escape. The shadows twisted around us, and I sensed we were chased by more than just the dark figures. That primal fear seemed woven into the very essence of the woods. "Just keep moving," I urged, pushing her forward. I glanced back and caught a glimpse of the first figure emerging from the fog, its eyes like lanterns against the night. I could feel its malice igniting above the chill of the air. Then something in the fog caught my eye, a glimmer of light breaking through. My heart lurched. "This way!" I yelled, turning sharply towards the light. With every step, I felt the darkness pulling at me, trying to drag me back, but I focused on the glimmer, a beacon of hope. We dashed toward that soft illumination as branches clawed at our faces. Finally, we burst into a clearing, illuminated by a strange, ethereal glow. It felt unnatural, magical almost. The dark figures halted at the edge of the light, snarling, their forms blurring at the threshold. "Stay close," I commanded Lily, and we huddled together just inside the glow. The creatures were menacing, circling us, their eyes glowing like angry coals. My hands trembled as I gripped a fallen branch in defense. "What is this place?" Lily whispered, awe and fear blending in her voice. "I don't know," I said, unable to peel my eyes away from the creatures. Behind them, shadows writhed and flickered, but the light pushed them back. That's when I noticed the pendant hanging from my neck, the one I had found in the clearing. It pulsed in sync with the light, almost as if it had a life of its own. I glanced at Lily, and in that moment, I knew what I had to do. "Together," I shouted, taking her hand.
We stood firm within that glowing circle, every ounce of belief bringing warmth into our grip. The creatures snarled, as if sensing our determination. In unison, we raised our hands, the pendant catching the light. "You cannot have us," we declared. The ground beneath us began to tremble, and the glow intensified. A blinding flash collided with the darkness, forcing it to recoil. The atmosphere shifted, and with a resounding roar, the creatures were suddenly vanquished into the shadows, their ghastly forms dissolving into the thin air. A silence fell over the clearing. No growls, no whispers, just peace. Lily and I stood panting, unsure if we were safe yet. We slowly turned to one another, our eyes wide with shock and relief. "Did we do it?" she breathed, her voice trembling. "I think so," I replied hesitantly, the tension starting to fade. But just as we began to hope we were safe, a chill rippled through the air. This isn't over, I thought uneasily, scanning the clearing. As we took cautious steps back into the woods, I felt a lingering question gnawing at the corners of my mind. What truly resided in the shadows of these trees? I could never explain the day, or those figures, the creatures that haunted the forgotten spirits of this place. But one thing was certain: some shadows are deeper than we can comprehend. I moved away from that woodland retreat after summer ended, seeking solace far from memories. I carried the pendant with me, unsure of what it meant, but knowing it would always tie me back to Lily, and to the darkness that lingered, waiting for another chance. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I find myself wondering if the woods are still there, harboring their secrets, their whispers echoing in the wind. And no matter how far I go, a small piece of me will always remain, searching for answers in the dark.